Hey everyone, welcome to Shimmer Girl Talks. I have done fatherless daughters before on my channel, at least a couple of times. And if you follow my channel, you know that I am a fatherless daughter. Never knew my father. I guess he held me when I was a newborn in the hospital, but I was newborn. I don't remember. And he's been dead since I was 7. And so I often think about how these swirlers, maybe not so much the swirlers, but definitely the divestors and a lot of the black women who can congregate online with each other and spew their hatred for black men. I think a lot of that stems from fatherlessness, and let me explain. And for some reason, when I talk about fatherlessness, a lot of black men get in their feelings and they get upset. And this is not I'm not targeting them necessarily, because since being online for the past 20 years, I started seeing a pattern with black women. I saw the pattern long before being online. Many black women, whether they admit to it or not, they actively pursue being single mothers. They have children. I'm going off on a tangent. They have children with the men that they want. And oftentimes those men do not want marriage with them. And so after they have children with the men that they want, then they go to seek out the men that they should have picked the first time who would have made them a wife. And then they gaslight those men when they say, nah, we good. You made your choice, etc., etc. So when black women act confused and confounded about why people are so eager about having fathers in the home for children, what they don't seem to realize is fathers prevent a lot of necessary ills of a community. And I think with a lot of black women, they view having a husband as just window dressing in the home. They don't see the husband as the provider, the protector, the moral support, the logical one. Not saying that women can't be logical, so get your panties out of a wad. But men tend to operate from a non-emotional point of view. And we know that we as women are highly emotional, and we think with our feelings and not necessarily logic. And a lot of those women are raising their girls and their boys to be overly emotional. So that brings me to my topic of fatherlessness creating these divestors and swirlers. As I've mentioned on my channel before, put it like this, and I'm making a guess since I don't follow divestor channels like that. I have listened to them, and the times that I have listened to them, I have not heard any mention of, my dad, fathers, or anything. So imagine, if you will, in an ideal world, little black girls at, let's say, 80% had a father in the home who was married to her mother, and she saw, how her father loved her mother, cherished her mother, and loved on her, the daughter, daddy's little girl. Or even if he's not as affectionate as she would have liked, he still went out and he worked hard for the family, and he had them up in a nice house, and he was present physically. But as it stands, a lot of young black women are growing up with literally no good father in their life because their mother either chased him off. See, this is something that a lot of black women are not fully admitting, but if you pay enough attention to what they say on the Kendra G show, in these forums, a lot of them were in situationships They were with men who were never ever planning on making them a wife and being there for the long haul for her or her children. And I said years ago, in order for the marital stats to come back to the black community, black women are going to have to be the ones to make that change. Yes, men ask the woman for her hand in marriage, but if women are not putting themselves in situations to be asked and having children with men who haven't married them, and then on top of all of that, let these women tell it, their children don't need their daddy. They are the mother and the father to the children. And we know that that is psychologically impossible, as well as biologically impossible. So what it boils down to, a lot of these women who put white men on pedestals, in my opinion, they did not get the proper love from their black father that they should have gotten as little girls. And what happens with a lot of these women, they grow up watching, I always say, the Hallmark Channel, and watching movies where these white men are moving heaven and earth for the woman that they love. And at the end of the day, while there are some black women who do end up marrying white men, that is not the majority. And as I've heard other content creators say, white men have always had access to black women. That's why a lot of us have 11% to 20% of European DNA in us. Because in the 17 and 1800s, black women were concubines to white men, or they were raped by white men. So white men have always had access to black women. And so then switch up to 50 or so years ago, when white men could now legally marry black women, white men are still not choosing black women at the clip that they would like. So a lot of these women, they get on their platform, they hide behind no pictures, and they talk about how white men are superior to black men. But these same black women do not call out other black women who are the ones who are raising these black males. And isn't it ironic that a lot of these black males, once they go off to college and they're dealing with Heather and Becky and Mary, suddenly those men are getting married? That's because Heather and Becky and Mary were raised to want to be wives. And this is another fallacy that white women don't have hot girl summers. This black man on another platform said, white women be virgins when they get married and this, that, and the other. That was laughable. I grew up around white people. So I know those white girls were some fast, hot mamas too. And the difference is, as I've said on my channel before, white women compartmentalize. They go off to college and they do all kinds of nasty stuff with either each other or with the males in their peer group. But then when they hit 23, 25, either during college or after college, they're like, okay, now they're on a search for a husband. And that husband does not have to necessarily be a Chad. It's going to bring me into another topic. They don't have to necessarily be a Chad. Just a man that they know is going to put her up in a 4-bedroom colonial on a cul-de-sac in a nice neighborhood with good school systems. Black women, for some reason, and that's another point about fatherlessness with black women, I believe. They want the best of the best, perfection, top tier. They don't want average. And I think it's to compensate for not having a dad in their life. So black women, from what I've seen online, they tend to think that only baddies should be getting married. And a lot of times you see that these baddies are not getting married. And the average women are thinking that they should be getting a top tier man who has no children, while she might have a kid or two or more. But she expects the man that she marries to be absolute perfection. But here's the irony. When they're dreaming about these white men, the white man can be as basic and average as the day is long. He doesn't have to be 6 feet tall. He doesn't have to have a body like Adonis. And he doesn't have to be a thousandaire or a millionaire. But those same black women, they will have children with a black man who don't have 2 nickels to rub together. But when it comes time to get married, that all of a sudden that black man has to have $500,000 in his bank account, no children, and have led a good life, while she threw her life away, but she still expects that black man to step up and be perfection. And I do believe a lot of that is based in fatherlessness. And that's my topic for today, and I'll talk to you later.